Hello, everyone,
I'm Melina.
and I'm Aditi. Welcome to an episode of
Yakkin about Bojack.
Yes, welcome. Today we're talking about episode 8, The Telescope. Melina, what did you think of this episode?
Well, in this episode, I was waiting to add homicide on Bojack's list of crimes, but we didn't get to do
Ooh,
it.
interesting. That was your bar you said earlier to see whether Bojack would be good or bad. It was murder. Did you think it was going to happen today?
There's still hope. I mean, not that it's good if it happens.
Hope that he
but
will murder someone or hope that he won't?
I think there is a possibility that he could still inadvertently murder someone.
I've been curious, Melina. I know we got to talk about the episode, but I picked the questions to ask at the end,
Okay.
and I asked, is Bojack good or bad? Now, watching this episode, your concerns about homicide, why do you think I picked the question, do you think Bojack is good or bad?
I mean, it's probably not related to his homicidal actions.
Wait, why do you think that? You clearly think that's what demarks good or bad.
There are other morally ethical questions that are topics in this show. Some people might be like, "Look at the gays pushing the gay agenda."
That is not morally bad. We should take a stance as a show right now to clear the air. We are pro LGBTQ plus. There's a lot to get to in this episode. We should get to it.
Yes.
And then Melina, you can talk about whether you still think Bojack is good or bad.
At the end, sure.
Yeah. Okay, the summary for this episode, The Telescope, it came out again August 22nd, 2014, like all of the 12 episodes. We met a lot of new characters this time. So we have Herb Kazaz, Charlotte Carson, Angela Diaz, Tina Baer, Marv, Bojack's old agent, and then we have a regular cast. In the summary of what happened, Bojack goes to visit his old best friend, Herb Kazaz, and drags his memoirist, Diane, so he can avoid being alone with Herb. Bojack recounts the story of how he betrayed his oldest friend to keep his fame and tries to apologize to the sick Herb. Meanwhile, Todd bonds with some celebrity thieves.
Yes.
Is that an accurate summary?
That is an accurate overall summary.
Yeah,
It
it's
doesn't
very high
spoil
level.
the end.
I did not go in. It didn't spoil the end. I didn't even list like half the new characters we meet.
Yeah, there was a lot of characters.
We should probably focus on the more important thing, which is Bojack completely and absolutely betraying his friend. Melina, that
Yes.
was not your original prediction, right?
What had happened wasn't part of my prediction. Like,
Yes.
there was some betrayal of some sort. But
Yes, your prediction did say betrayal. You said that Bojack pushes him away, which is actually not unreasonable because he pushes a lot of people away. I think last episode he pushes Princess Carolyn away a lot in his life. You know, I think that is it's a fair analysis and based on a character study of Bojack that we have so far. But in this case, he genuinely betrayed him.
Yeah, it was very similar to how his betrayal of Todd during the rock opera episode. Like when at the very beginning with the flashback at the bar where Herb was having his stand-up comedy show.
Yeah, it was interesting that the cold open for the episode where Bojack betrays Todd, that is the episode they first introduce Herb as Bojack's mentor. Right? And at that time he's not. Clearly he's not later. He is his friend. But they show him in that as someone he could trust. Bojack has some trust with this man, and then in that episode it goes on to Bojack betrays Todd. It's foreshadowing.
And then in this, well, I guess then I'm a little confused. Like, when did he become a mentor? Because I thought they were just friends in this episode.
I think they were just friends, but I do think that Herb has a little bit more experience with stand-up.
Okay.
Like, they started this episode not started this episode, but in that flashback scene in this episode, you see how Bojack, Herb, and Charlotte are all three friends.
Yeah.
And it looks like they became friends when they met in LA.
Yeah.
Right? And I think Herb is not really a mentor, but someone Bojack looks up to a little bit. They both work together, but Herb clearly has a little bit more writing experience. Maybe he's a little bit more seasoned with jokes. Honestly, in the
Yeah.
few clips we saw of Herb in that flashback, I actually thought, I know it's Bojack's flashback, so we gotta take it with a grain of salt.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought Herb was funnier. I don't remember his joke.
Bert Ho here is funnier. Like I don't remember Bojack's or his jokes either, but I remember
I remember
Bojack's was
Bojack's.
very tasteless. I
Yes, Bojack
don't
just
remember what they were.
insulted people. He went up
Yes.
there. All I remember is he insulted the man and he said, "Girl, you could do so much better. Call me after the show," which is not really a comedy
Yeah.
set as much as it's like you just hit on someone
No.
on stage. It's
Yeah.
funny because it's cringy.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's like this is not funny.
This is not funny. And I think Herb actually had jokes, which was good.
Uh-huh.
So maybe I think that's there is even within friendship you can like look up to some of your friends and I think
Yeah.
that's kind of what they were going for, but I do agree in that cold open it sort of hinted at a different relationship
Hmm.
between them than sort of that's conveyed in Bojack's recount, which is they were really good friends and Bojack played the third wheel with him and Charlotte.
Yeah. That third wheel. It was not explained at the beginning why, but once we found out about Herb's reveal, it made
Yes.
so much more sense. I think. Because I'm not sure if it's hinting at what I think it's supposed to be hinting at.
What do you think it's supposed to be hinting at?
So well, I guess we are jumping forward a lot more. Well, we
Yes.
find out
Yeah.
he was gay, and I don't know if he was attracted to Bojack, and that's why he kept asking him to be around on their dates.
Well, I actually was maybe. I was kind of thinking that, Charlotte, I don't know if Herb was ready to be out yet because the 90s was a different and I guess the 80s were an even different time and take it with a
Okay.
grain of salt. Melina and I were not alive then, I'm sorry. Actually we were alive in the 90s, but we weren't really involved in the zeitgeist and making content. But I think it was definitely a much more conservative time
Mm.
to some degree. So I think Herb knew and she was kind of aware that Bojack liked her.
Mhm.
Like she mentions that right away and Bojack never made a
Yeah.
move. And she also says near the end, we're jumping ahead, where Charlotte at the end says, "I don't think I'm Herb's type." And I feel
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that is maybe Charlotte really realizing it because I think to her it was truly a relationship between her and Herb for a little bit,
Mm.
right? But I think she also kind of had a crush on Bojack, but she was like, no, Herb's my first, I met him first. He's my current boyfriend. So she was
Mhm.
loyal. And I think
Mhm.
Bojack definitely had feelings for Charlotte, but he was very much like, I need to be loyal. And
Mhm.
I don't know whether Herb was truly out to himself. Like that's something we haven't
Mhm.
explored yet in this episode. Was he truly
Yeah.
out to himself? Or did he just enjoy Bojack's company? And maybe to a degree, he was like, I'm in this relationship with Charlotte, but I still like Bojack. So maybe he was around because Herb wanted that. And I think it sort of hit this balance of like Bojack didn't want to be alone.
Mm.
Charlotte enjoys Bojack's company. Herb
Mhm.
enjoyed Bojack's company. Bojack and it's like this weird love triangle that sort of was somewhat stable for some amount of time, right? So I think that probably played a role. Whether Herb was conscious in that, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm on the side of I don't know whether he was conscious of it himself, and I don't think there's
Mhm.
anything wrong with the third wheel. But if I was Bojack, I would have clued
Yeah.
in a lot faster, and maybe that's just because we're more aware, and I think our generation, Melina, growing up, has more exposure to just like possibilities. Like we were just more educated.
It's also hard to like. It's hard to say even what it is like if that was why like they were
I don't
hanging
know if
out
I'm
and
saying
stuff
the
like
80s
that.
is really that
Yeah.
backwards.
Yeah.
Like I don't think that's fair to say
Oh.
either. Like I just think that in
Mm.
the zeitgeist we're more aware of LGBTQ issues
Mhm.
and we're more aware of like and maybe it's just me in general. I'm very
Mhm.
cautious of like, oh, am I treading on someone else's feelings? And it could just be
Mm.
ourselves. I became kind of hyper aware of signals. And Melina, this is probably I'm going on so many tangents.
Uh huh.
I was an undergrad, okay?
Uh
Was
huh.
working on a project.
Uh huh.
And I hadn't realized there was three people on this project, myself
Mhm.
and two males. It's
Mhm.
so vague that I'm telling
Are
the
you
story
in
this
a
way.
love triangle that I was not
I was
aware
not
of?
in a love triangle. I knew one of the males from a different project in the same course, and he already had a girlfriend, and I knew they were in a relationship
Okay.
together. The other guy I didn't really know very well, but the three of us were supposed to meet up to go buy something for this project.
Mhm.
And it so happened that the new guy, who I didn't know anything about his relationship status, and myself were the only two people
Mhm.
there. And halfway through this outing to buy stuff, it seemed a
Mhm.
little bit like a date. Like he kept holding the door open for me. But I
Okay.
find that very frustrating because I was like, I can open doors. So the next set of doors I would open. I was just like tit for tat, you
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't really
Yeah.
notice. And then he was really nice, and he asked after whether I wanted to grab bubble tea or I wanted to and I didn't understand. And he didn't say anything outright, and I thought it's very presumptuous of me to say anything, and I hadn't really thought much about it. We finished the project, it was a lot of fun, we put it together, it was great. And I remember when we came back to work on it together after, I asked the other guy why he didn't show up to our meeting because he was just missing. He was like, "Oh, I had a thing," and I was like, "Wow, that's a really lame excuse." That's what I thought. Like, I didn't think it through. Fast forward, we're graduating, we're at grad ball, and it was a fancy event, and I think he had this is the guy who'd gone on the shopping trip with me. I think he had a little bit to drink, and I was taking selfies with as many people as possible. It was my thing, Snapchat selfies. And I was like, "Oh, do you want a selfie with me?" And he was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Why did you never notice me?" And I was just like, and I was doing the selfie with him, and I was like, I didn't know I should have noticed you." You know? I was
Yeah.
like, you didn't explicitly ask me out. If every person I've ever had a one-on-one interaction with, I'm supposed to second guess, I would feel really bad. But now I can't judge our friend who didn't pick up signals, because guess who didn't pick up signals? I did. But like, he asked me if I wanted bubble tea, and I genuinely didn't. So I said no. He was cute. I'm sorry, but I didn't pick up on it. Just be explicit. Okay? And so I think Herb, he was not a coward. He was explicit. And he made his move. He shot his shot. And I think that's a thing kids say these days, where you shoot your shot. When he kissed Bojack, I was both cringe, because it's a very like cringe situation, because you know from Bojack's perspective that he's clearly very much into women, and I think only into women. He's definitely not bi, at least from the vibes we're getting. But Herb looks like he genuinely won. He looked out for Bojack. Similar to Princess Carolyn, he stuck his neck out for Bojack. Princess Carolyn till today is getting hammered for this, so I always feel bad for her right away. And number two is he was really brave. Like, it's hard to be explicit and very clear about how you're feeling, and I think it's important to be, because as we know, sometimes people don't pick up on shit.
Yes. Well, I mean, everyone has different signals. Some people are like,
Yes.
"I looked at you. How come you didn't know I liked you?" I was
Yeah,
like,
or I held the door open for you. How did you figure it out? Also, I held the door open. I think at one point you should figure out that I didn't get the signal when I opened the door for you the next time. Like, to me, I was like, this is too subtle. Like, it's like door opening. That just seems like a
no
general act
signals
of kindness.
ever.
Melina, have you ever held the door open for random strangers?
Yes.
See, I just think of it as polite.
Maybe because we're Canadian.
Maybe because we're Canadian.
Maybe in America over there they have like more signals, like they don't open. Maybe I'm sorry, American listeners, for stereotyping.
I've held the door open for like people at the mall and then waited there like 20 minutes after, you know what I mean? Because they were too far away to decide whether to leave, and you've made eye contact.
You need to run fast. If someone's holding the door, you run faster.
Yeah, you run because you feel bad. Oh my god, exactly. So to me, I considered it just basic manners. So
yeah, no, I see that as manners too.
thank you.
Back to our talk about Herb and his coming out.
Yeah, I guess that was his coming out to Bojack. Like, that's when
Yeah.
Bojack realized that, his friend Herb liked him.
Possibly. But I still don't know if he did.
Okay, Herb kissed him. I think that's a very clear sign, Melina. You don't kiss your friend.
I don't know. I mean, well, I don't like kissing people in general, so maybe
Yes.
people who like kissing people is different.
Yes.
But like for me, I was actually worried when he kissed him. Like I was worried that was just like gonna be like a gag or running joke, because especially like in older shows, like they tended to portray like gay relationships or things as like
like
just
it
a
could have
joke
been
or
how
something to
Herb
laugh
was
at.
internally like homophobic, or like it could have gone a lot worse. You're right. Like,
Or it would just like it's just something to like have the audience to laugh at and not to take seriously, kind of
see.
thing. Like to me, I didn't not realize he was homosexual until like it was on the news being like scandal. This guy was caught like doing things with the guy. I'm like, okay, so that explains every other action that's happened in the show.
Yeah, I think the scandal was that they were in public, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kissing in public, but
Were they kissing, or were they? I thought they were literally having sex in public.
I think they were having sex. I don't know actually.
Which is like, I think that it would have been. It didn't really matter that they were gay and having sex in public. I think having sex in public is just public indecency. Like, it's a crime regardless, right? And I guess like if you're having sex in public, this is a risk you take. I'm not condoning it. I'm just saying, read the bylaws, people.
If
Yeah.
it's illegal in some parts, don't do it in illegal parts.
Yeah,
Do it in the
but
legal
I
parts.
think it was a scandal because it's a scandal to be gay, unfortunately, right? Like, that shouldn't have been the big headline. It should have been like public indecency. get a room, people. It's a
Mhm.
slap on the wrist, but it was a much bigger deal at that time, that was a part that really broke my heart because especially like in Hollywood, there's so much other
Mhm.
like there's like legitimate crimes that just go unnoticed. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or no one cares, or just accept it. Just like, oh, like taking advantage of that underage person. That's
Yes,
perfectly
that is a
fine.
much bigger deal. Or abuse of
Like,
power,
yeah.
and for sexual assault. And I was like, and this is your problem, and it was happening during
Uh-huh.
the same time too. Obviously, BoJack is fictional, but this is
Mhm.
not out of the realm of what actually happened in the 80s. So I was
Yeah.
enraged,
Yeah.
and very very like upset because Herb put his neck out for
Mhm.
BoJack to get this job, and even after
Mhm.
BoJack rejected him,
Mhm.
and they still did the show together. Like he still followed through on his promise. Like, but Herb to me was a man of his word in many ways.
Did Bojack
I
tell?
BoJack said no, he kind of pushed him away. I think he did it in
Yeah.
a non-verbal rejection, which was
I
softer,
guess.
and um,
I thought Howard was just so happy that he just happened to kiss his best mate.
which could happen. Like I can see that too.
Could also have, asked for consent. Like, hey, man, I like you. Can I kiss you, man?
Yeah, it's always better
No?
to use your words and be explicit.
Okay.
If nothing else, if you like someone and you are asking them to bubble tea because you like them, if you like them 10, if you like them, just say, I want to ask you out on a date.
Yes.
I have asked people out, Melina, and I have to say, when I've asked people out and have been really implicit,
Uh-huh.
I don't like if they reject me. I don't know if they actually rejected me or whether they were just like, I didn't want to do that activity. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I was like, some people picked up on the hit. I did get someone who's very like clear, but then I
Mhm.
realized the more effective way to actually ask someone out is to be very
Mhm.
clear that, hey, I like you and would be
Mhm.
interested in going on a date to do X.
Mhm.
Here's a script if anyone wants to know. That's my patented script. You can use that one for free, everyone. But it definitely helps because when they say no, you know that it was
Mhm.
explicitly about that. You've no confusion. There's no
Mhm.
ambiguity. And you're right. Herb could have just been like, Bojack, I care about you as a friend. This is not going to impact our show, but I'm so happy. Can I kiss you right now? And then he would be like, yes, no, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe this one
Or he's
time.
like, Bojack, I had such strong feelings for you and you were so nice to me, so I thought you liked me too.
Okay, I don't understand though why Herb, who seems like a great guy, likes Bojack. You know what I mean? He's not a great guy.
When you're attracted to someone, you cannot control it.
You can't control who you're attracted to. Yeah. If nothing else, this shows that. At the end, Bojack definitely feels a
Mhm.
lot of guilt, but I was so shocked
Yes.
that Diane rekindled their friendship.
It still kind of fell into pieces.
But I think like with good friends, sometimes, you still bond together after years and they bonded over the hate of the Vita mix. I just that was like old man dad like complaining. You know what I mean? You're right. They weren't completely friends, and I think that has to do with her, not ready to accept his apology, which I think he 100% has the right not to.
Yeah. Like when Bojack was apologizing and Herb was not accepting it, and Bojack was getting angry for the editor for Herb not accepting it. Like, and then they got into their tussle.
They're so mature. Maybe that's why they're made for each other.
But like, there's one line that Herb used that I really liked. He dropped. He said like, "I'm not gonna be your prop so that you can feel better."
Yes. Because
And
that is why Bojack wanted to feel better. Like he was feeling
mhm,
shitty with Joanne and not Joanne. He was feeling shitty with Diane. Every time he felt like
mhm,
a bad person and he wanted to validate himself, I
mhm,
think this has been weighing on his conscience
mhm,
because it's something he did that was wrong. And
mhm,
maybe this means that, Bojack is not he's redeemable. He's not irredeemable, or he has a way to a path to moving forward, which is before he can convince Herb to like accept his apology, he has to do some of that work himself.
mhm.
He did like a one-off meeting with Herb, but how can he make it up to his friend? Like Herb said he didn't care about the money. Like, look, this house is bigger than Bojack's. He didn't give a fuck about the money.
Yeah, like he still did pretty well for himself despite like
Yes.
having to leave the industry. So
I
I'm pretty impressed by that.
Yeah, I don't know if he actually completely left the industry, but I think he just like did a lower profile, or maybe
Mm.
like when they fired him, they gave him a settlement and he's been doing charity work. Like the show had already been going on for a while, so he'd made it. We will talk about more about Herb, don't worry.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, so the details of that, the financial situation, it wasn't that, but I think with a friendship that was even
Hmm.
before they became famous.
In terms of like, the apology, I feel that that's very relevant to even in general real life. Like a lot of times we may hurt other people
Mm-hmm.
unintentionally or intentionally, and then we apologize, or vice versa. Someone might hurt us, and then they apologize, and then it's like we don't accept the apology, or they don't accept the apology, and then like we get angry. But it's like just because we say sorry doesn't mean the other person has to forgive. It's like, oh yeah, I may have murdered your family, but I'm sorry. Can you forgive me? It's like, no. And then it's like,
Yeah.
why are you not okay with me saying I'm sorry? And it's like, it's less about the other person now. Now it's just about yourself. It's like,
Yes.
you don't care about the other person being hurt. And that's what Herb was saying. Like, he was like a selfish asshole.
It takes a true friend sometimes to call you out on your absolute BS.
Mm-hmm.
And Herb did that. He called him out. Melina, you said something brilliant there about how you can't just do something and like just say I'm sorry and it fixes everything. It's
Mm-hmm.
less about the apology and more about, and this applies even today when we offend people and just sort of that work. We need to do work to earn the forgiveness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Apologizing is accepting you did something wrong and letting
Mm-hmm.
the other person know, but you still have to do the work to earn that
Mm-hmm.
forgiveness. Like
Yeah.
forgiveness is something that you have to earn. And that is like regaining someone's trust often after you betrayed it in
Mm-hmm.
this way with Herb. But in other words, it's like regaining and helping reestablish a broken relationship, friendship. How can you
Yeah.
help mend this? And sometimes it can't be mended.
Mm-hmm. In terms of their relationship, I don't think they're friends anymore. Or that's the impression I got. Like after that fight, like it seemed okay. Like when Diana was there too. Like it seemed
Oh,
okay.
after whether they're friends
Yeah.
after? Yeah. So I still think Herb is his oldest friend that he
Mhm.
betrayed. That's how I think of Herb in my head, right? Like he's still his oldest friend. Like he knows Bojack well enough and Bojack
Mhm.
clearly has not changed, right? So he knows Bojack in that sense.
Yeah.
Are they still friends? No, but I think when you're ex friends with someone, you know, it's a different relationship from being like a never friend.
I
Classifications.
guess.
These are all free classifications, by the way. Teach them in all your classes. There's never friend, ex friend. So, what did you think about Charlotte, Melina?
I didn't have too much thoughts about her. Like I knew that she was friendly with Bojack. I know she was supposed to be Herb's girlfriend and I
Yes,
guess possibly fake girlfriend.
yes.
um and then she moved away and I think became a lumberjack, I think. Or maybe I'm
Oh, from the
misremembering
photo,
that.
you think she's a
Yeah.
lumberjack. Okay.
That's all I remember. There wasn't much about her, I don't think.
Do you think Bojack liked Charlotte or Charlotte actually liked Bojack? Because she made a reference about that.
I think there's always a potential. Like again, we can't. As far as my understanding is that people cannot control like who they're attracted to. Just like how Herb is potentially attracted to Bojack, and Bojack is potentially attracted to Charlotte,
I
and
see.
Charlotte's
But you don't want to
potentially
take any
attracted.
hard stances or any hard bets.
I think that because it's not explicit,
Hmm.
like
You're so cautious, Melina. I want you to lean in. Tell me what you think. Give me your hard takes. Give me your hot takes.
again, it wasn't explicit to me. Just like how it's
I
like.
thought it was pretty explicit, though. Clearly, Charlotte says to Bojack, would you have, what do you think would have happened if you had met me first? Would you have made a move? And she calls Bojack a coward for not making a move. I think that means she would have wanted him to, but he didn't. And she's also insulting his character for not being brave enough to fight for what he wants.
But that's because Bojack respects his friendship with Herb and not stealing his fake girlfriend, which at the time was not his fake girlfriend, I guess.
True, but also she's in a hypothetical scenario in which she wasn't Herb's ex.
Mhm.
Right? She's asking in a hypothetical scenario when she wasn't Herb's ex, would he have made a move on her? And then she accuses him of being, even in that situation, even if there wasn't the messiness with her being Herb's ex and them being friends, she still accuses Bojack of not having the strength of character to stand up for what he wants.
I thought that was referring to something else. Cuz I thought that was when Bojack was saying like he wasn't like oh like Herb is going far with his career and he wasn't going to make it that he doesn't feel like he was going to make it that far. I thought that's what she was referring to.
Oh, no, no. I think she was talking. So, that specifically, that statement was about how she thinks
Uh,
Bojack isn't character. And I think that, to me, I specifically call that out because it reminds me of multiple times in this episode, we see an example of that, right? Most
mhm.
notably, Bojack's kiss with Diane at the end. I think Charlotte's words are echoing in his head. He didn't have the coward to make, he didn't have, he was a coward He didn't have the strength to make a move, and he made a move with Diane. He like kissed her, even though he knew she's engaged to Mr. Peanut Butter. It worked out badly, but he shot his shot. What do we shoot your shot? He did his shot with Diane the same way Herb did. I applaud Herb for doing that. I'm not saying that you should be kissing engaged people. Please clarify that. I'd like to clarify that. I don't think that was a good thing.
So he kissed. I thought he was just in distress when he kissed Diane.
I think he kissed Diane because Charlotte's words were echoing in his head about being a coward, because that's also what Herb called him, a coward. Because another situation in which he didn't stand up was to Angela Diaz, the ABC
Oh
rep.
yes,
She like
yes,
walked all over
yes.
him. And if he was someone of a stronger character, he would have stood up for Herb. Herb who stood up for him against the ABC reps and said he wanted
Hmm.
his friend to act as the leading role. And when push came to shove, Bojack didn't fight for
Hmm.
what he wanted to do. Like, it looks like he wanted to help his friend,
Did he
right?
actually want to help his friend though? Like, cause when I first saw his like the whole thing like where he was like afraid like Herb was gonna go ahead, he was gonna be left behind. It to me it reminded me of the episode where Todd was gonna go ahead with this rock opera and he was getting left behind. So he sabotaged Todd. So in a sense here I thought it was the same thing where he purposely didn't fight back because he just wanted to get ahead, regardless of like he didn't want Herb to like get farther ahead or whatever than him.
But Herb wasn't getting farther ahead. It was more that, is
Yeah.
Herb going to get fired or not? And also,
Yeah.
is Bojack going to get Secretariat? I think that's the other big example. Is he going to get his dream? So he put
Hmm.
his dream above everyone else. So maybe you're right. Maybe I'm giving him too much courage. Like, this parallel about strength of character and being called a coward is one, but it's also
Hmm.
like his strength of character when it's less about what he wants and it's more about like in his selfishness relative to like his own
Yeah.
motivations, right?
And like I'm not saying if it's good or bad, it's just like different people have different values.
No, that's true. You're right. Actually,
Yeah.
I'm giving Bojack way too much credit. You're right. He was way more selfish about the Secretariat thing. And even now with Diane, he shot his shot, which generally if you shoot your shot, I'm going to support you. But Diane's in a relationship, and I don't think it's fair to shoot your shot in a relationship with a kiss. You should probably use your words. Always use your words first. I'm a very use your words
Yeah.
person.
Don't just open the door for someone to be like, they walked through the door, I opened for them. They accepted my first act of courtship.
Okay, sorry. So before we get ahead of ourselves completely, the kiss. What do you
Oh
think about
yes,
Bojack's
Bojack
kiss
kissing.
to Diane?
I still was very confused about it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it was complete. And to me, it was completely random.
But was it random? He was so distraught because he
I
stole the D for
guess.
Diane.
Yeah, it was either. Well, I also feel like he also like partakes in a lot of sexual intercourse when he's like just to make himself feel better.
Yes, we talked about this in the Sarah Lynn episode. In episode 3,
Yeah,
we talk about how both him and Sarah Lynn use sex as a coping mechanism because they don't process their emotions. They
yeah.
just,
So for him, it's like
yeah,
possibly here is someone of the opposite sex that is, if I can just have sex with this person, I will feel better without
yes,
processing like this Diana or whatever, whatever. That's also a
yeah.
possibility.
That's also a possibility, but I do think there's a second layer to that,
Yeah,
which
there
is he
probably is.
already emotional vulnerability with Diane. He's
Yeah.
also lost Diane in a similar way that, not in a similar way, but he feels kind of betrayed and he's lost and he's left behind because Diane's moving on with Mr. Peanut Butter
Mm-hmm.
and he's got to shoot his shot. Charlotte called him a coward. I think all those things do layer. I do think I gave him way too much credit like, I think him being called a coward does play a role, but you
Hmm.
know. Last bit about Charlotte. She refers to LA as a tar pit. What are your thoughts about that?
Does that mean it's like somewhere you just get like stuck in and you can't get out?
Yeah, so Charlotte says LA is a pretty town on top of black tar. By the time you realize you're sinking, it's too late.
Okay, so okay, I can see that. It's like it's similar to how I think like a lot of people who want to go to LA to kind of make it big, and
Yes.
then they kind of just like with all the craziness going on there, they kind of fall to whatever crazy level it is, and then they're just kind of stuck there. And even if they want to get out, they can't because they're dragged in with whatever
Yeah, they're kind of in the
is going
mess. Like, I
on.
think
Yeah.
this is so powerful. And Melina,
Mm,
pay attention to the tar pit metaphor.
okay.
But Charlotte leaves. She leaves LA. She knows it's a pretty town, but she doesn't want to get stuck here, sinking.
Hmm.
Do you think Bojack is sinking?
I think Bojack are sunk a long time ago.
Ooh, true hot take. Hot take. Sink if he is sunk a long time ago, it means he's trapped. I think we'll see. We'll see whether he's trapped forever or whether he's sunk and he can swim out of the tar. We'll see.
I mean, people might get him out. Like, just because you're in a tar pit doesn't mean you can't. Other people cannot get you out. I mean, you may not be able to get out yourself, but other people might be able to get you out.
That's true. Yeah, they can help you. Like they can rescue you from a sinkhole. So why not here?
But there's always potential for hope. But it might take a few seasons for that to
There are 6
happen.
seasons.
There are 6 seasons, yes.
What did you think about Marv? Or actually, I care less about Marv. I care more about Princess Carolyn, as you know, one of my
Oh
favorite
my
characters.
gosh. Yeah, she looks so different too.
She did. I loved it. She was so young, wearing like a 90s outfit, wearing like cute ass
Yeah.
hair. Yes, that was
Yeah.
young. She was an assistant. She started off where Charlie Witherspoon was, his hands sticking everywhere. Incompetent. Look how competent Princess Carolyn is. She's like her assistant Laura. I see Laura going places, you know? Look at that.
Yes.
Princess Carolyn's
Yes.
going places. She was an agent's assistant. Now she's an agent. She's
Yes.
climbing.
Yes.
That actually made me really happy to see sort of it, like change in Bojack's life.
Mhm.
He sort of leveled off post horsing around,
Mhm.
whereas Princess Carolyn sort of like after game there's a bit of a plateau. But even last episode, it's so engaging to always see her, and I was so happy to see her.
Mhm. Yeah. Very happy. Your favorite character.
One of my favorites. I still
One
also
of
love
favorites.
Diane,
Okay.
and I also love Todd. Todd's hilarious.
Todd got robbed in this episode.
I know, and he helped them break down their walls. He
Did
helped
he
them.
really? Or was that a ruse on their side?
I think maybe it was a ruse on their side, but I do think that Todd genuinely was helping. Like he was trying to help. You know, he
Yes.
cared. Going to our reoccurring questions, Melina, is Bojack good or bad?
Well, he hasn't murdered someone in this episode. Although I almost thought he would
You
have when
did
they're
think he
brought.
almost murdered a cancer patient. Getting in
Yeah.
a fist fight with almost the way the show depicts it, it's almost a terminal
Yeah.
cancer, and I think it is in fact uh anal cancer or rectal cancer.
Okay. Cause I thought during the fight the IV was gonna come out and then like
Yes.
the guy was gonna like break something and then
You
the
also
nurse was
think
gonna
Bojack
come
is much
in.
stronger than he clearly is, but he did say he was what, like 1,200 pounds or something like that. So
Yeah, that thing's gonna crush her.
yeah,
Her it was a tiny little thing, and the nurse was gonna come in and be like, "Oh my gosh!" So he didn't even murder someone, but he did some not good things. He did some not good things, although in his eyes, he probably didn't think they were that bad because
yeah.
he's just like, "I'm focused on my future."
Yeah, I think he still knew they were bad. Like there is a moment right after he talks to Angela Diaz where he was ready to say all that and she just shuts him down. And
Mm.
then before he walks out on that stage, he
Mhm.
has a moment where he regrets it, right? I still think he
Yeah.
genuinely knew it was wrong and he genuinely
Mhm.
felt wrong about doing it. And he even says like,
Mhm.
"Herb, you really bad timing," right? Like he wants to still be a
Yeah.
good friend. I think he did some bad things. I don't think
Yeah.
he's fallen away. Like his motivation to apologize, though selfish because he wants to find that peace in forgiveness, that's a little
Mhm.
selfish. But I think the motivation to want to apologize and to atone for some of the wrongs he's done in his life, I don't think that necessarily makes him a bad person. I think that
Mhm.
is on the path to becoming good, but he's a little bit lost and he hasn't done the work to get there.
Yeah. But I also, yeah, and I think it's really good that Diane was there because if she wasn't and she
Yes.
didn't give him the pep talk to be like, yo, tell him what you need to say, like,
Yeah.
he would not have taken action.
Yes, he would have been a coward, the coward that
Yeah.
Charlotte called him, you know?
Yeah. But I don't think that's bad per se because I think a lot of times, like, we
Yeah.
just need a push, especially if we are already, like, thinking badly about ourselves.
Yes.
Or, like, we just need
Yes.
something to push us forward to take the
Diane
action.
pushing him exactly
Hmm.
is not I agree with you 100%.
Hmm.
Yeah. Do you think that Diane will still get married?
Hmm. Well, it was all I was just because we didn't see any change in her relationship with Mr. Peanut Butter because before
Yes.
it was like I had said I wasn't too sure about how serious he was about their. I mean, maybe he was.
Yes.
Maybe Mr. Peanut Butter is serious, but it's like they don't really see eye to eye like Mr. Peanut Butter and Diane. Like they kind of have different wants for of the
Yes.
relationship. Like things that she wants, he's not offering. I'm not sure about vice versa, but. So so in this episode, we can't really tell because I haven't seen any development on their side.
Okay. You're holding back on a full out. I did want to note that Diane does go back in the car after Bojack kisses her. She doesn't say anything else. She just goes back in the car
She
quietly.
needs a ride.
She does need a ride. You're right. I will say nothing else. We still think that, you know, we don't know anything about Mr. Peanut Butter. You're holding off on predictions. The other predictions we had, you said Herb would show up. Herb does show up. Were you surprised anything about Herb's character?
Well, I wasn't expecting him to be so full of life
Yes.
for like
Oh, he definitely looked terminally ill, but he definitely
yeah,
had so much
like he has some
life.
spry energy, yeah.
Yeah.
And like everything that he's accomplished in his life just because they hadn't given us any like anything since
Yes.
that show, like it kind of made it seem like he was like ruined forever, left the country or something, had to be in hiding because people were trying to kill him because they think that he's ruining America or something
Oh
like
yeah, they
that.
cared way too much about that.
Yeah,
Calm yourselves. Like by
yeah.
the 90s, though, to be
Hmm.
honest, it's kind of upsetting what else was happening, but by the 90s like Will and Grace was on TV and Will and Grace had like Will on the show and actually another character, I forgot the name of the other guy in the show, was an openly gay character on the show. Like this
Oh,
the
okay.
actual character, right? And
Okay.
so like I think a lot of like not that I'm gonna say the 90s were so much more progressive because there was also, you know, there's a lot of homophobia. Even when I rewatch Friends, it's so cringe sometimes,
Oh.
right? So I definitely think there's been a lot of growth in society and in our pop culture and our media,
Mhm.
and there's always room to grow even more. But yeah, it was kind of a little bit outrageous. And now looking back and looking at stuff, you're like, ooh, it's a little bit out of touch. So what do you think is gonna happen next?
There's gonna be a strain in Diane and Bojack's relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Diane still will want to try to write the memoir, but like Bojack's gonna be all sweet and stuff with her, like he was when he was trying to get back with Princess Carolyn. And then Mr. Peanut's brother's probably gonna see that.
So we'll find out if any of these predictions work out.
Yes, looking forward to it, and so should everyone else.
Yakkin About Bojack is produced, recorded, and edited by Melina and Aditi. Music is by Podcast Co's royalty-free album Keep Calm and Podcast, the song One Fine Day. All thoughts in this podcast are personal opinions. If you or someone you know is experiencing issues with addiction, substance abuse, or any of the topics mentioned in this episode, please know there is hope and seek professional help.